is down close to average, but feeling cooler with the wind.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello there, welcome back. I'm Bethany Elsey with your top stories from the GB newsroom. Ambulance workers are planning another strike this month in their ongoing dispute over pay. More than 2,600 members of Unite will walk out on Monday the 23rd across England and Wales. New figures show record numbers of ambulances, over 40%, had to wait more than half an hour to hand over patients to A&E over Christmas. Well, the Prime Minister will host the NHS Recovery Forum with health and social care experts in Downing Street tomorrow. Rishi Sunak hopes to discuss how to improve the NHS performance and outcomes. The forum will focus on 4 issues, including social care, delayed discharges and urgent care. Further revelations have emerged from Prince Harry's memoir Spare, which is out next week. It includes how he and his brother were talked out of reopening the investigation into the death of their mother, Diana, by the so-called powers that be. The Duke of Sussex has angered a senior leader of the Taliban after admitting to killing 25 militants in Afghanistan and calling them pieces on a chessboard. Buckingham Palace has not commented on his claims, but Londoners have shared their views on the book.
The only issue I kind of have is that the reason why I thought they'd left the royal family and moved is because they wanted privacy, but then this is doing the polar opposite of that.
The whole thing's sad. I just feel like it didn't have to happen. But yeah, if it was my family, I would have preferred my brother or sister to call me before making it public. But how much do we really know? Has he spoken to his brother? Like, it's difficult to say, really. I think we also just get our own stories about things.
Ukrainian officials have accused Russia of failing to observe its own ceasefire. The governor of the eastern Luhansk region said attacks hadn't stopped and that within the first 3 hours, Moscow had sent 14 missiles into Ukraine. Kyiv had dismissed President Vladimir Putin's suggestion of a truce over the Orthodox Christmas period as propaganda. The US has unveiled a new £3 billion package of military aid for Ukraine. US President Joe Biden has marked the second anniversary of the deadly attack on the US Capitol in a ceremony at the White House. He awarded presidential medals to 12 officials and police officers for resisting the crowds. A mob of Donald Trump supporters attempted to storm the building in a failed bid to block Congress from certifying the 2020 election. And official census data has for the first time revealed the size of the LGBT plus population in England and Wales. Around 1.5 million people aged 16 and over said they identify as lesbian, gay or bisexual. And around 262,000 people said they identify as a gender that's different to their sex at birth. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's time for headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, the show that gives tomorrow's newspapers a good shake and we see what treasure falls out. I'm Josh Howie and today's gold diggers are Dapper Laughs, who's kindly given me permission to call him Dan, and Nick Dixon, who after being friends for a decade has given me permission to call him Nick Dixon.
You earned it.
First though, let's quickly see how tomorrow's front pages are looking. The Daily Mail, Harry faces global fury over Taliban kill claims. I'm sure the Telegraph has something different. No, Harry ambushes harmed Queen's health. Now, this is definitely not going to be anything to do with Harry. No, OK. The Mirror, Harry kills outrage. He's slammed over talk of Taliban deaths. We're going to get some real news in a second. No, wait a sec, the Daily Express, King, all Harry has to do is call me. OK, this time, surely, the Sun, no. Capital Wales and the missed drug tests. Fine, Daily Star's, no, Daily Star's not. No, I nearly lost the crown jewels. Bashful Duke reveals frostbite, Todger, trauma. Those are your front pages. Let's dig in. Let's kick things off with the front page of the Daily Mail. Dan, Prince Harry taking on the Taliban.
Yeah, so it's all kicking off here. The veterans are accusing him of putting his own safety at risk, the safety of the other royals, his ex-comrades, for talking about killing the Taliban. A former national security advisor said he had advised against the Duke of Sussex sharing the information. Obviously, Harry don't know what goes on in Afghan, stays in Afghan. One thing's for sure, no one's inviting him on a stag do after this, are they? Because he's just grassing everyone up. But, look, people are getting the hump with some of the stuff that he said, you know, the chess piece on the board and it's disrespectful to armed forces. But I think, you know, that he's over there in a war and that's what he's doing. It's just maybe he shouldn't be speaking about it.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, what do you think? I mean, lots of veterans have written books about the people they've killed and made a lot of money from it. Is this...
They don't tend to give a number, like Ant Middleton and people like that have written great books. He will talk about killing people. They don't tend to give the number. Plus, they're not also princes, are they? You know, there's something a bit off about it. And even he's managed to, like, get me to sympathise with the Taliban, which is impressive. I mean, even the Taliban think he's an idiot. I'm looking forward to their book, like, how Harry victimised us. You know what I mean? Like a 4-part victim documentary. But it's incredible. It's incredibly dumb, a stupid thing to do. Obviously, it makes security a huge problem. I mean, what's going to happen at the coronation? Are we going to all pay, you know, for extra security for Harry? I don't know how it's going to work.
Yeah, but it's not like he did something really bad, like draw a cartoon.
That's true. He merely killed 25 people and then bragged about it. Yeah, it's just mad, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously got no one around him saying anything sensible. He's got Meghan saying, that's a great idea, Harry. And then, like, loads of other people going,
I thought you were pro-Meghan.
I love her. Like, this whole channel loves Meghan.
What I liked was how the Taliban were just sort of slagging him off. Just like, yeah, look at you, you went back to your grand's palace, you loser.
Yeah.
It was not impressive. Well, on to The Sun. And Nick, what is their take? What are they focusing on?
Yes, Captain Wales and the missed drugs test. So Harry was allowed to leave his Apache helicopter base because he had urgent business in London, which involved not getting caught in a drugs test. I mean, I'm not sure.
We've all been there.
Allegedly, satirically, not sure what we're allowed to say. Let's be very clear. Who knows why he left the base when there was a drug test?
Cocaine or mushrooms? We don't know which one.
So let's be very clear. He has admitted to doing both cocaine and mushrooms in the past, and he said that mushrooms let him redefine reality, which he's certainly an expert in doing. So that's where he got it.
That's how I found myself on the show.
Absolutely, and his mate as well got kicked out. His radio operator got kicked out for testing positive for cocaine. I'm just going to say that and leave that there.
Well, look, Dan, is this the start of the fight back from the firm? This feels like little things are now starting to trickle out, and this is their way. That they are remaining sort of there's a dignified silence, supposedly, but then we all know that behind the scenes that people are feeding stories.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's going to be some backlash. I think personally, at this point, missing drug tests, I reckon that's when he actually wrote the book. He missed the drug test, ran away, done some coke, wrote the book, because all the stories in this make him, it's the sort of things you hear at 4 in the morning in someone's kitchen, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
It's a little bit crazy, but I think that, the Royals are, I don't know, what are they kicking off? Are they coming back?
Well, I'm sure they're not particularly happy. Someone did... I did read someone on Twitter who basically said this could be all like his super plan to take the heat off his wife. Like, that's how much he loves his wife. Like, I'm going to make myself look even worse.
The deeper conspiracy is it's Rishi Sunak's super plan to take the focus off him and his 5 pledges and the complete collapse of the country. Because, as you say, the whole front page is just about Harry. I know. Yeah. We've got so many problems in this country and we're just hearing about some ginger guy's book.
Well, surely the Telegraph is going to give us some proper news.
They will.
Dan, what's their angle? Oh, look, they're focusing on Prince Harry.
The Telegraph doing what they're doing best. They're just really exaggerating this. They're saying, look, Prince Harry's royal family ambushes harms Queen's health. So Prince Harry, everything that he's saying, they're saying that the Queen here heard about it before and it made her sick. Basically, they're saying Prince Harry killed the Queen.
That's what they're saying.
They're saying that this book killed the Queen. So, he done drugs, he got frostbite, he got spanked by a cougar and then he killed the Queen.
That's the Telegraph's angle.
That's it.
What do you think, Nick? Do you think there's any truth? I mean, they're saying sources say that in the...
Yeah, sources say she didn't like confrontation, she didn't like, obviously, what was happening with Prince Andrew, then this stuff was shoved in her face on an almost weekly basis. I mean, it's hard to argue with any of that, isn't it? I mean, of course, it will have had an effect on her stress. I mean, she was pretty old anyway. I'm not saying it was like the final blow, but it's certainly going to have a negative impact on you. And it's just, it's incredibly selfish, isn't it, to do this? She was suffering after the death of her husband, so of course it is profoundly selfish that he was doing all this stuff. I look forward, Josh, to when he finally leaves Meghan, breaks the brainwashing, and then we get a sort of tell-all book about her and why she's evil, which will be coming, because he's realised that victimhood pays, and you can get documentaries, you can get books. So it's a whole industry for him now.
But I think it's a bit full on. Look, this did have an impact on the Queen's health in her final year. It's like the Telegraph are saying, look, and he killed the Queen, guys.
Yeah,
it's a bit much.
It is a little bit overstated, possibly. But also, I do feel that no one wants to see their family. You want to sort of you can sort of see the legacy that you're leaving behind if you know you're not well, and to sort of see your grandchildren fighting and whatnot. It's not good. But there's a nice picture of Meghan's bottom to go with that story.
I didn't notice that, but yeah.
Oh really? Okay, you were looking more. Anyway, let's not go. What about the Daily Star, Nick? They've got a nice little cutout here.
Yeah, a little free mask here. Free It's Not My Fault mask. And it says, been a bit of a bleep, but don't want to take responsibility. You can just wear this mask and blame everyone else instead. And then they've got this brilliant story. I nearly lost crown jewels. They say an intensely private Duke has revealed he got frostbite on his old boy. Very private. And this is amazing.
That's sarcasm, do you?
Yeah, well, it could be. And this was in the North Pole. He managed to get frostbite in a dodgy area. And bear in mind, Josh, this is the first of 4 books.
North Pole, literally.
Yeah, well, it's South Pole, really. But this is the first of 4 books. Like, leave something for the sequels, you know what I mean? Like, I almost lost my penis. And in the next 3 books, like, where's he got left to go?
I mean, why would you even put that in the book if that happened? And is there any damage left? And how's that going to affect, the royal blood and
Well, I think also because he's circumcised, aren't the royal family circumcised?
Was that in the book as well, was it?
No, I just know that from I was once next to him in the urinal.
To be honest, you're talking about a stag do. This sounds like the kind of thing that happens on a stag do, ends up at the North Pole, frostbite, you know what I mean? Then tells the newspaper.
So this is one of the sillier stories, but there have been a lot.
No, this is serious.
No, this is. I mean, hopefully, first of all, this is the last day we're going to have to cover this.
That'd be
but
nice.
I do like some of the sillier stories that have come out. You've got him talking about him Googling his to-be wife's sex scenes.
Yeah, that seems really weird to me. I mean, she's obviously an actress. I mean, there's plenty... Googling your wife's sex scenes, there's a lot of other websites you can pick from if you're going to enjoy yourself, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And plus, she's sitting right there. Why would you do that?
Surely that would be a red flag. If you have to tell somebody, by the way, I'm just going to Google my future wife's sex scenes.
Maybe he's checking
that's not...
Yeah, maybe he's checking if she's acting when she's actually with him.
Well, that's it. She may be a better actress.
You never know.
Wait a minute. You don't make those noises with me. What's going on here? Nick, have you got any other favourites?
Well, that was the best part of Suits, to be honest. I mean, it was a sort of mediocre legal drama. That was her peak, wasn't it, Meghan? You thought she's not bad in Suits.
So you were a fan of hers before this?
Oh, yeah, I liked her in Suits.
Wow,
Suits, she was all right. I was like, yeah, perfect. It's a mediocre legal drama. She was perfectly good in it. That would have been fine. If she'd have carried on pumping out, mediocre legal dramas on Netflix, I'd have been fine with it.
Occasional sex scene.
But then she chose to destroy our royal family when our country was already divided by Brexit and things. That's when I went off her a bit, Josh.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking forward to the film coming out to this book. I think that's going to be the big one because you got the drugs, you got the shooting people, the dogging. It looks like he was doing.
Well, and then he said he needed electroshock therapy to get over it, so that would be a good part of the movie. A bit Clockwork Orange.
To be fair to him, it feels like he has actually delivered because I think that documentary was all a bit of a damp squid, and like he's got his money's worth. Like they paid him millions to dish the dirt, and he's done it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, okay, well, you fulfilled your contract. I'm trying to do a positive spin on this. There's another story which is all about when he's saying he was tortured about his mother's death during army training. And he had someone came in and basically said, your mum, she was going to have a Muslim baby. But I don't think you can have a Muslim baby, can you? I don't think babies are Muslim.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And he also went and drove through the tunnel. Do you know that one? When he went, I mean, that one at first struck me as sort of a weird Harry kind of like just punishing himself emotionally. Why would you go and revisit that? But then when he looks at, apparently William also did it, and he looked into and he's sort of in the tunnel going, hang on, there's a lot of questions about this. And I do think that's fair enough because there are a lot of questions about that incident. So that's actually where I do have sympathy for him. When it comes to his mother's death, I have massive sympathy for Harry. It's everything else where I lose it.
Yeah, he wanted to maybe reconnect with, go through it and reconnect. I did a similar thing. My father passed away as well, so I went back to he actually had a heart attack in the red light district in Amsterdam, so I often...
You go there yearly, right?
Yeah, just to...
I thought you were doing a serious thing then. There was a little joke.
I want to do any serious.
Yeah, he's good.
You should watch his sex scenes. Finally, what are the Daily Express saying, Dan?
I don't know.
They're saying... well, I'll tell you what they're saying. Here you go. This is what they're saying. There you go.
All Harry has to do is call me. So, they're sort of implying here that loving father King Charles...
Song, right?
Pardon?
This is Adele?
yeah. They're implying that, that King Charles has just said, just pick up the phone and call me. That's not going to be an awkward situation. You know what I mean? At all. And really, if that's all he's saying, then all of this wouldn't be going on. But, it's anti-Harry everywhere at the moment.
Please, Harry, call me so I can scream at you for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Revealing everything.
I think he's genuine. Charles is very sensitive, our king now, and there's this quote, isn't there? Please don't make the last years of my life a misery, that he said to William and Harry. They didn't really listen to that, especially Harry. He's like, no, I'm going to make it really miserable. So, but I think that's a good thing that he's saying, because he is still his father. He's doing the right thing. I'm not sure how you can bridge that now at this point, especially when there's 3 more books coming out.
Maybe also don't release that news on the Daily Express front page.
Yeah, it's just PR stuff, isn't it? That's the royal PR machine working. It's got to be, The
good thing is it doesn't work at all. Lucky us, eh? That's the front pages in the back. Join us in a sec for the mystery of dying Chinese celebrities. I don't know what could be killing them. Trans and non-binary people stand up to be counted, and someone's claiming to have shamed Boris Johnson. No chance.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons? I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens,
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. Clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with myself, Josh Howie, Dapper Laughs, on a mission to bring back the polar neck, and Nick Dixon, who I'm hoping will one day be brave enough to wear on camera his usual outfit of double denim.
It's coming.
Starting with Saturday's Daily Telegraph, Nick, and it seems like train drivers will be offered a pay rise, taking their annual income to £1 million.
Yeah, the poor old train drivers. So train drivers offered 8% pay rise to break strike deadlock. The rail delivery group have offered them this, they're calling it a landmark outline proposal that would deliver more reliable service, blah, in exchange for backdated pay increase of 4% for last year, 4% for this year. Now, they're saying they'll also commit to no compulsory redundancies until March 2024. But ASLEF, the union representing train drivers, hasn't responded to the offer, although I checked on Twitter and someone from ASLEF was saying, I didn't get the email. So it's classically brilliantly organised, what we come to expect from this country. RDG was like, we sent out an email. He's like, didn't get it, bro. And that was all happening on Twitter. In a very kind of Prince Harry-esque public way, it was all going down in public. And yeah, and so this would mean that the base salary for the average driver would go from 60,000 to 65,000 by the end of 2023.
That's the base salary, right?
That's the base salary. And taxpayers, of course, are still funding extra 175 million a month, we found out. So I'm always torn on this because I get tweets like, hey, big dog, this was a real tweet, someone actually wrote that. They said, hey, big dog, don't turn against the workers. I do understand, I do have some sympathy for the workers, but I have less sympathy for the train drivers than, for example, the nurses, because they get paid a lot more than me. It's that simple.
Well, also, the question is to the job, but then we do see the value of the job that they do because, of course, the country's shut down. I mean, Dan, what was the point of holding out over Christmas? Because lots of people's Christmas was ruined. Obviously, there have been lots of industries, predominantly hospitality, that was severely affected. I mean, what's the point of then going, all right, we are going to give you the pay?
Exactly. I think, well, that's a PR thing, isn't it? So we all turn against them. That's what the government wants us to do. So we turn it. That's what I think anyway.
Well, it worked on me.
Yeah, well, has it really? Yeah. I think if we haven't got the money, we haven't got the money. But look, this looks like a good deal. Let's just get it done. Why can't they get this stuff done?
Yeah, you sort of feel like it won't happen. It'll just carry on the deadline. I personally feel like that, but let's see.
Yeah, well, all right, Saturday's Times next. And Dan, has Rishi blinked first?
Well, do you know what? I don't really understand a lot of this stuff. I'm looking forward to the stories that are coming. They're a little bit more up my street, but I'm going to go for
sex
it.
Stuff.
That's it, yeah, just lower calibre banter. Rishi Sunak has backed away from plans for even wider...
You do know that he's the Prime Minister?
I do, I've got that.
We've got that bit in the bag, OK.
Rashid Sunak is how you pronounce it.
Oh, was it? Well, there you go, lads. I'm learning a lot here. But you never know who's Prime Minister these days, do you?
You know what? It could be moment to moment it changes.
All right, so the geezer running the country...
Boris Johnson.
He's announced legislation yesterday that will require NHS staff, teachers, firefighters and rail workers to provide minimum service levels during industrial action. And, he's backing away from this, basically. He was going for it. He's backing away from it because he thinks it'll be blocked by the House of Lords. Not because it's out of order, but, you know, and that's what he's doing. What's your thoughts?
Basically, is it cowardice, really?
It's pretty simple, Josh. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, has...
this is going to be great.
I remember her.
This is going to be great.
She's back, and she's trying to get this sorted. No, it's classic. We can't get anything done in this country. So Rishi says, we might do minimum service levels. France does them. You know, it's to keep things going so strike doesn't totally destroy the country. But now he's not going to do it in a classic sort of turnaround. And it's much like the EU regulations we just had recently. We're like, right, we're going to scrap 4,000 EU regulations. Then the House of Lords were like, no, you're not. So you can't get anything through because of the House of Lords. Obviously, the government's always at odds with the civil service. Have you noticed we just can't get anything done in this country on anything? Immigration, we can't build anything. There's so many regulations. The only time it's good is when there's a bad idea like the online safety bill, and that gets watered down and can't go through. I'm like, oh, good. Bad things don't go through either. You know, Channel 4 thing got scrapped. So all we do is we just constantly turn and scrap everything, and that's our country.
Well, I feel like this story is slightly misleading because some parts of the bill will go through or will be taken up to the House of Lords, which will not necessarily make strikes harder, but will add a few more. Like one of the things that they were talking about is that you would normally have to ballot every 6 months. And that would give you 6 months to be able to strike. And they're talking about actually making that maybe more like 3 months. So it would mean that the workers, the people, members of the union, would have to then do another vote to see if they want to continue and not sort of give carte blanche necessarily. And the other thing was about extending this 14 days that you have to give notice to a strike to 28. Now, those things seem actually relatively sensible.
If they happen, but Starmer has already said if he wins the next election, which looks incredibly likely, he'd repeal it all anyway.
Well, he wouldn't repeal all of it.
You don't think so?
He just said
just the minimum service bit. Okay.
Minimum service, yeah. All right, well, good. Let's go to Saturday's Times next. Oh, no, we're going to go to The Guardian. Sorry, Nick. And they've written a story, wait a minute, solely about their own readership.
Clever, yeah. This is England and Wales census counts trans and non-binary people for the first time. So it found that in England and Wales, 262,000 people identify as a gender different to their sex registered at birth. I mean, I calculate that's about 0.4% of the population, because England and Wales is, from memory, about 59,597,542.
They've actually given you the statistics later, don't worry.
Well, then later they give you the statistic, and that is the number of people in the survey who said this, which is slightly different, but that's 0.5% of the population. So, OK. So what's interesting, I mean, there's lots of things that are interesting about this. Stonewall are taking it as a great victory because they say, finally, an accurate picture of diverse rainbow Britain. Well, not really. It's an accurate picture that hardly anyone identifies as trans and non-binary. And so I used to go out with somebody who had a nut allergy. So I thought, I'll see how many people have peanut allergy, just out of interest. It was the exact same percentage. It was 0.5%. This was of adults with a peanut allergy. So I was thinking about this. I was like, we don't change all of society for those people, and they can die, right? So they come to the restaurant, they're like, what's it been cooked in? Or you go to the supermarket, you're looking at the labels. We try and accommodate them a little bit. But what I've noticed is our whole society has been brought to its knees by 0.5% of the population. And if we're being very fair, not actually them, but activists acting on their behalf, because how many people can really be... If you look at it, if it's 0.5%, and we hear about it constantly. It's not trans and non-binary people. A lot of it is just activists using that to sort of reshape society how they want. That's my take on this.
OK, well, look, Dan, this is interesting because I think the hardest thing here that they haven't talked about is how do you actually define, well, trans, but non-binary specifically, which is what they're saying. And people can't actually... even non-binary people can't properly define it.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big problem for this because they're going to probably have to add about 32 more pages to the census to add all 400 genders to the thing. Do you know what I mean? It's madness. But I think Nick said absolutely everything, and I didn't understand half of that either.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like...
I thought it was a brilliant point.
It's gender ideology.
The viewers will get it.
People argue that it's a belief system. And as a belief system, you know, last census you had all the people putting down Jedi as a thing. But that doesn't mean that we started, like, investing money in Jedi churches or whatnot because of that.
Non-binary doesn't exist, but I'm just taking it at face value, saying even on their own terms, it's a tiny, tiny percentage.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying, that they've proven that there's a small percentage and we're having to change so much.
Yeah. Well, think about how much we talk about it. For 0.5, how many times do we talk about people with nut allergies? And it's the same amount of people. It's madness.
Yeah, and also the other thing that's quite interesting is that the number of people who say that they're gay and lesbian and bisexual basically hasn't changed. So everybody, but the people who identify as the LGBTQIA+
has blown up.
I think you missed a Q there.
Really, is there a queue in there
there was
as well?
a queue,
There
you
was a
missed
queue,
it. How
sorry
dare
about
you?
that. I'm sorry if I offended anybody.
Thank you.
That was literal violence coming through from my exclusion.
I'm shook.
But, and what, people argue is, or some people, certainly certain, like the LGB Alliance, they're saying specifically, like, the LGB, these are sort of protected characteristics, and all this other stuff, which they're sort of lumping together and saying they're part of sexuality, or things like pansexual or even asexual, as like, that's like an oppressed class.
Yeah.
When, of course, it isn't.
These are theoretical, sort of postmodern ideas, whereas being gay is an actual thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting, and the other thing is that I thought are you from Rochford? This just says it here. It's the straightest town in England.
It's the straightest town in Essex. I'm not actually, but
when he goes there, it is.
Yeah.
Right, let's go to Saturday's Sun next. And Dan, seems like Chinese soap opera writers might have their work cut out explaining why half the characters have disappeared.
Well, you would never think that I'd be happy to talk about COVID, but after all of that stuff, I'm diving straight into it. So, COVID is ripping through China's celebrity elite as star deaths among 16,000 a day. So in China, celebrities are dying at an alarming rate amid fears that COVID is raging the country. And I think it kind of looks like it's China's version of I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. Do you know what I mean? It's like a manufactured virus to just get rid of annoying celebrities, and I was just going to see if we could get it over here for, like Matt Hancock or...
A few people that you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, James Corden and Amber Heard, who knows?
It's got a weight issue.
Yeah. But, so the death toll's up to 16,000 people a day. I mean, it's kicking off over there and it sounds really bad.
I mean, you've got the WHO criticising China. That's kind of unheard of because, of course, China is one of their biggest...
They're mates, aren't they?
Yeah, basically, essentially. So the WHO criticising them, China's... Obviously, it's not going well for them.
They're in trouble. Can I just say, I love talking about COVID stories because the Private Eye magazine recently gave me some publicity for my so-called wacky COVID opinions.
I sent you that message at 2 in the morning, didn't I? I was like, Nick, you mentioned the Private Eye.
You love sending me negative press about myself.
Look, these people are really slagging you off.
I know, it's great. So shout out to Private Eye. Thanks for the publicity. Here's some more wacky COVID opinions coming up. Wacky COVID opinions coming your way. Well, I'm torn on this because obviously China lie about stats and they ridiculously underplay the amount of COVID deaths. So on the sort of China lying part, this is important. But I also don't want it to be used to sort of spread fear in the West, which it kind of is by the Sun covering it, as like, oh, this terrible new, variant type of scare stories. So on that, I'm sort of torn on whether I like this story or not. And these celebs, given it's China, they might have just all gone to re-education camps. With that tennis player, where did she go? We don't know.
They found out to be Uyghurs or something. And
Right, exactly. So but yes, of course, they could easily be. The weird thing is, they've got these undisclosed illnesses, and here's just to make Private Eye happy. When they think it's COVID, the press are all over it, like, oh, they're dying from COVID and no one's talking about it. But when it's sort of sudden death from something else, like perhaps possibly the vaccine, no one wants to talk about it.
Well, there you go.
There's wacky COVID opinions.
From Nick Pureblood Dixon. And let's finish with the Mail. And Nick, I know you only started wearing a mask because of this guy, right?
This is good old Boris. So Boris Johnson was subliminally shamed into wearing a mask during the COVID pandemic. Now, this is Professor David Halpern from SAGE, who subliminally tricked him using secret coercion to get Boris to wear a mask. And what we learned from this is two things. One, SAGE are even more sinister than we thought. And two, Boris Johnson is even weaker than we thought, because they were able to trick him
Not I thought.
Right, maybe not you, but they were able to trick him with slides. So they showed him a load of slides. I'm not making this up.
Wow.
There was a series of images of every world leader wearing a mask, then one, which was him, not wearing a mask. Yeah. And he subliminally started thinking, oh, maybe I should wear a mask. Why couldn't they show him a slide of, like, the economy functioning?
Yeah.
Or just...
No, well, instead they showed him lots of slides of parties.
Right.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be good. Just show me, like, a functioning economy, getting Brexit actually done properly, and a picture of Carrie with just, like, a cross sign saying, don't listen to her. That might have got through. So I find this incredibly sinister. They actually tricked Boris.
So a picture of a condom with a tick? Possibly.
It all works. You flash something at Boris, he will... It's like Ron Burgundy, will read it out. He will remember and act on anything you show him on a slide. I mean... It's pathetic. We know Boris was instinctively against, or we're told he was instinctively against it. And some of the text messages of Dominic Cummings seem to indicate he didn't really want to do lockdowns. He wanted to take it on the chin, all that kind of thing. So he just capitulated because of basically low-level manipulation. And I didn't. I wore a mask 3 times total.
I know, you're very proud of this.
I can't be tricked, Josh. Why aren't I running the country?
Well, look,
I can't be
wearing
tricked.
his polo neck, just ready. He's ready to go.
Yeah. In case
he gets cancelled again. He needs to go on Newsnight.
But yeah, I think it's crazy that they've even got forgot this, that they can trick the Prime Minister into doing... This is... But he is the Prime Minister, isn't he? He was. That's... Thank you, guys. Thank you.
It's like Yes Minister.
It's Liz Truss now.
Yeah,
It's like the TV series, isn't it? That's what they would do. That's the whole plot.
It made me think, like, maybe my missus has been doing this to me for ages, just making me watch Love Island and wearing PJs at Christmas and all that. But...
Like a slide of taking the bins out or something.
Yeah, these are your neighbours watching Love Island.
yeah.
That's by you.
But yeah, it seems crazy.
But what's disturbing is that they did this to the public. Let's remember, Sage said the level of people don't feel a significant level of personal threat. So they used all these... We are joking about it, but they used these tactics on the public, and it was a disgrace.
Yeah, they should have used them on him more to get haircuts and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, that is the halfway point, where after the break we're going to tip over into the decline of civilization with students who complain about not having to get out of bed, but they certainly have it better than North Korean students, and why you might want to rethink this cheap kids' day out. See you in 2.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Deems & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
There's a guy who went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
It makes it. Welcome back to Headliners. Let's get straight into it with this story from Saturday's Mail. And Dan, back in my day, students didn't want to work. How times have changed, eh?
Yeah, they're furious at the moment because students feel like they're watching YouTube videos. Almost a third of university...
Your YouTube, and that's why they're angry.
That's it, yeah, they just keep coming across my videos and they're going mental. Almost a third of university courses still involve online learning, with some students complaining for paying thousands and thousands of pounds for a glorified streaming service. Universities were almost remote entirely through the pandemic. They're meant to have come back, but there's still a lot of it. And they're getting bored. They want a bit of a refund on their money, I think. They're just sat at home watching. It's hard to concentrate on that sort of thing, isn't it? I mean, it's hard enough in the class, I think.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, look, the government, Nick, they pledged to do a crackdown on this, and it obviously doesn't seem to have worked. Surprise, surprise.
No, and complaints have gone massively up. The independent adjudicator received 2,763 complaints in 2021, so that's up 6% from 2020, 17% more than 2019. And they're asking, and they're giving out far more compensation because they're these useless courses. And this guy here says, this young lad says, it's not good value for money. It's like watching a YouTube video, and you'd be better off watching a YouTube video. I mean, why not? You've got so many amazing things on here. You could watch old Christopher Hitchens or Thomas Sowell or Roger Scruton. You got like
well, actually, universities do put out their courses now for free, a lot of them, just on YouTube.
Yeah,
so you don't need to pay. And to be fair to the students, they are literally paying thousands of pounds that they'll be paying back over a lifetime You really should get the best service possible.
If I wanted to sort of make myself as obsolete as possible, I would do everything university is doing. Like, just cover woke nonsense, charge loads, say we're going remote only. Like, do they have a death wish? And also, they're completely irrelevant. I mean, you might still need it for certain jobs, your bit of paper. Obviously, you need it for things like medicine and so on. But a lot of the time, you don't even need to go, do you?
Thank you, Minister for Education.
Drop out.
Dixon. Sticking with the Mail and another story about students, but who perhaps have more to complain about, Nick.
Yeah, North Korean students are expelled and forced to work in a coal mine. And this is mad. This is because they've been watching too much foreign TV. And the way they found this out was they were speaking in a softer accent associated with South Korea that they call a puppet accent over it.
Want to do the accent for us?
Totally not. No, I'd rather be cancelled for my COVID opinions of being a pureblood than this. But yeah. And it's incredible. So people are smuggling in shows, and this is how they're getting these South Korean shows, well, not South Korean shows, but shows from outside of North Korea. And they're smuggling in things like Squid Game and Crash Landing on You. It doesn't say if they smuggled in Harry's documentary. But that's actually, I mean, what's extraordinary is you can actually face the death penalty, but they're still smuggling in shows. So it is incredibly brave. But Kim Jong...
That's how bad their TV is.
Exactly. And Kim Jong-un calls it counter-revolutionary. You think, no, the counterculture is smuggling in the shows, but in his twisted world, that's counter-revolutionary to watch these shows because it's bourgeois, you know what I mean? It's just coming to the West soon, basically, Josh. This is what's going to come if we carry on down this leftist path. But, yeah, it's absolutely... It's horrific. And like you say, it's sort of funny, but it's also very serious because you end up in a coal mine or facing potential death penalty.
You say leftist path, I mean, there's technically a communist...
Yeah, but don't you feel this is where we're going in the West a little bit? Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but, you know, we're not... In some ways, we're going a bit North Korea, aren't we? A bit Soviet Union as well.
I wouldn't go maybe that far, but...
Because you're a lefty.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Yeah, it's all my fault, mate. Dan, what do you think? I mean, it seemed like quite an amusing story, and then you turn the page and suddenly there are 16 and 17-year-olds being shot for watching TV shows.
I think the kids in our country at uni, they don't know they're born. Have a look at that, look, YouTube videos, and these guys are ending up in a coal mine. But I just think it's mental that North Korea are going to kill you if you do a South Korean accent. That's like us doing a Welsh or a Scottish or an Irish accent, I guess, isn't it? Similar to that, and then...
Yeah, and also they're very similar in terms of the discrepancy between the countries.
Yeah, so you don't know you're born, kids. You don't know you're born.
And they rank it the same as murdering your stepmother. Like, doing the accent is given the same... weighting as that.
Well, I think it's not the accent as much as it is importing these shows, and that just shows how scared these kind of regimes and this specific regime is to outside influence, because they know that once people see that life isn't like that necessarily, like the way that people grow up there thinking it is, the whole system falls apart.
Correct.
Saturday's Telegraph next, and Dan, good luck getting through this story without getting cancelled.
Wow, I'm glad you gave me this one. This is great.
This is your testing story.
This is why I bought the turtleneck. Yeah. Next, England's men's head coach could be a woman under...
What?
Yeah.
I love the way you said that.
Under
This is rugby, right?
Yeah. The Rugby Football Union hopes that a woman could be in contention to be appointed the head coach of the England's men team within the next decade. While the women's side has previously been coached by men, the Premier 15s competition now features a number of female coaches. I mean, this isn't really that controversial. I personally myself, this story feels like it's put out there to really stir it up, to get people kicking.
So come on, get stirring, mate.
To get us
do your job.
But I just think, look, whoever's best at the job should do it. You know what I mean? That's probably going to annoy a few people, but whoever's best.
Of course.
Whoever's going to be best at being the head coach, which is probably going to be a man. That's going to be better. But if there in time is a woman that's going to be better, then get her in to do the job.
Well, I mean,
mate.
OK, Nick, I agree with what Dan's saying, but of course, the path along the way is, will there be men losing out on opportunities to make space for women who maybe aren't as qualified or...
It seems very likely, Josh, or certainly possible that would happen, yes.
We're going by our comedy careers.
But yeah, exactly. Don't get me started on that again. That's how I got cancelled. We'll all get cancelled. But yeah, I got cancelled for saying, let's have the best person for the job. And that's what they're saying here. But they're actually not saying that. So if you look at, here's the flaw in what they're saying. They say, we want it to just be the best person, whoever it is. But then if you look at what this guy, Nigel Redmond's saying, he says he hopes it will be a woman. And then elsewhere he says the aspiration is that it would be a woman. Now, if you just want the best person for the job, why do you hope that it would be a woman? Yeah. So it's an obvious contradiction, doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So he wants to social engineer, he wants it to be a woman. Fine, just say that. Don't pretend you want a meritocracy, because you've literally just said the opposite. And, of course, it does point out sometimes, sorry, there's a fly getting me, that sometimes it's been a man coaching the women's team, but that does actually make more sense because you played at a higher level because the men's game, you know, is sort of higher level game than the women's game. So I think you can make a case for that before someone will probably tell me off for that, but you can make a case for it. But look, I'm the same. I want best person for the job in any role, but that's not what they're actually saying. They want equality of outcome is what they're saying, and they want to rig it in favour of women. They're explicitly saying that while pretending they're saying it's meritocracy.
OK, so Private Eye are now writing the next story about you. The Metro next. And Nick, what is kin-keeping, and is it why your flat's such a tip?
This one is the one that's going to get me in real trouble. So this one made me angry. Kin-keeping is the invisible work women do that no one gives them credit for. This is according to someone on TikTok called Advice Girl, and she could be called Bad Advice Girl. So she started off saying, if there's one thing I've learned from my women and gender studies class, you already know it's ominous from that start. I mean, if there's one thing you've learned from a gender studies class...
It doesn't say that.
No, she said that in the video.
Oh, in the video?
Yeah, watch the video. I did research.
Oh, wow.
Don't worry. And if there's one thing you should learn from gender studies, it's don't take gender studies because you've wasted your time and money.
Wow.
So their argument is that women do things, for example, at Christmas, they do all the shopping, cooking, wrapping and organising, it says here. Not my experience that women do everything at Christmas. My dad did the cooking, he's a chef. I did all the washing up, so I didn't have to speak to anyone. But OK, let's say women do that role. Perhaps there are other reasons for it other than the evil patriarchy. Maybe that there's some reason they like doing that role that may be in evolutionary biology or psychology. Who knows? It could be possible. Then she goes on to say that women are invisible. And this irks me somewhat because men are invisible as well. If you want to get onto this, like, take the dating sort of arena. We all know there's a huge percentage of men that are invisible. This is a big thing now. Also, you're on the street, there's a man working. He's in a high-vis jacket. He's still invisible. These poor guys fixing your internet so you can post garbage like this. They're completely invisible. And did you hear about Nora Vincent, who wrote a whole book? She was a woman who disguised herself as a man and lived as a man for 18 months. She found the experience was so demoralising. She said the world of men is just brutal, unforgiving, lonely, depressing, and they need help. And at the end, and later on, she actually killed herself because she was so... It had such an impact on her. So all I'm saying is, I'm sure, of course, there are challenges being a woman, but... ultimately, it's the universities that are to blame. This is a young woman who's gone to a gender studies... I'm going to stop after this.
OK.
They've gone to a gender studies course and they've learnt this new way that they're oppressed, that they had to pay an expensive university to find out. That's it.
Now, Dan, I would ask your opinion, but I can't actually see you.
You ain't got time,
No, just you're invisible. You've disappeared during that story.
I feel like I'm king-keeping on this show
right now. What do you think
now.
about that? You're married with kids?
I am married, yeah.
Do you agree with this article? Because it made me a little bit angry.
Well, look...
Because I just think it's not true. Like, I do the shopping and the cooking and the wrapping of the presents and all that.
Yeah, first of all, why are we getting our advice from a teenager on TikTok and that goes to a women's studies class? I think I'd rather work in a North Korean coal mine than go to that. But my mother-in-law, when she comes over for Christmas, she does everything. She actually does. She does everything. And about 7 or 8 Christmases ago, I offered to help, and she said, get out of it. And I haven't risked offering since, so...
OK, that's it. So you're finding there is truth to this?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
But you say thank you to her, sure.
Yeah, but listen, they do a lot of stuff we don't do, and we do a lot of stuff they don't do.
I know, I tend to do everything.
That's a very sane point of view, but you're not allowed that anymore. That's cancelled.
Last story of this section now, and as Saturday's Telegraph upset you, Dan, because you'd unsuccessfully paid for these tickets.
Yeah, this is a really hard one to navigate. Well, not really a hard one to navigate. It's just a dodgy one, isn't it? The After Hours drag show offers free tickets to children under 8.
Yeah.
It's just weird, isn't it? Campaigners raised safeguarding concern around RuPaul's Drag Con promoting highly sexualised performances to adults only. The event starting at 7:30. Look, basically what they've done is it's a drag event. They're saying it's highly sexualised and they're offering free tickets to under 8s. And I mean, if that is the case, if the show is highly sexual, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love drag shows. I think they're good fun. They're a bit crazy, but I'm a middle-aged man. Do you know what I mean? So if they are offering it to kids, then they need their hard drives checked. That's what I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, this is it. I mean, Nick, we've seen these videos, but most of them seem to take place in America. I think this is one of the first times that I've seen kids being invited to this kind of show in the UK.
I thought you were going to say in libraries, because half of them seem to be in libraries, yeah. No one had a problem, as Dan's saying, with drag shows until they brought in children. Everyone thought, OK, this is fine, it's some kind of art, fine. But when you bring in children, they're sexualised performances. Everyone knows that. Some people involved in them have dodgy criminal records and things. But it's obviously appalling. It's like this attempt to normalise minor attractive persons, I think. I think there's a push...
weird.
Yeah, it's sick stuff. It shouldn't happen. Anyone who takes their kids to that or is involved in it, doing a sexual performance in front of kids, should be in prison. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to go and an under 8-year-old to see someone called Cheryl Hole.
No. Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Final break now. Join us in 2 for the rise in polyamorous thruples, present company included, why you'll never look at a fire alarm in the same way, and why you really don't want to watch these puppies play.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament.
But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akue, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. Nick, do you think some men will be surreptitiously placing Saturday's Star open on this page for their wives to see?
I see what you've gone for there, Josh. Yes, to try and encourage them to have a throuple. So the headline is "We're polyamorous throuples and don't care what people say. 3 isn't a crowd." And so this is a general story about throuples. It's throuples, isn't it? Throuples, yeah. Throuple sounds like 4. It's 3 people. And this is kicked off because David Hay has been pictured with Sian Osborne and Una Healy, and they're all sort of holding hands in some weird arrangement.
I think they've now said that they are a throuple.
Okay.
It's official, supposedly.
Yeah, and so, you know, the funny thing about this phenomenon is sort of, if it's a sort of lefty thing, it's like, oh, it's polyamory, and we're just...
Why do you have to bring in lefties?
No, well, it's just a convenient way of saying, and it's too hard to explain, like, I don't mean you. But if it's certain sections of society, there's like polyamory, but then weirdly, he's actually doing what people like Andrew Tate advocate. This is a sort of high-value man. David Hayes, sort of rich, he's in good shape, you know what I mean? He's doing well, he's famous, so he can just have lots of girlfriends. That's really what's happening here. But then they do go into other people, and they give other examples, and I've not heard of any of them. So apparently Jimmy Silver, Chacha Vavoom, and Summer Peltier are doing this, and I thought only one of those is even a human. I mean, the second one sounds like a vehicle, the third one sounds like a villa or sort of some light clothing. So I haven't heard of any of the rest of them. Apparently it's becoming very common, and it's just another weird part of our degenerate society.
Dan, I mean, this sort of ties into one of our earlier stories about the increase of the LGBTQIA+. This isn't, you know, some people would be in these polyamorous throuples and they would say, oh, I'm part of the queer community. Now, but of course they're not. They're just someone with...
No,
they're straight with 2 girlfriends or a girlfriend.
It's just someone being a little bit greedy, isn't it? Having a little bit of fun. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think you know, recreationally, this can work. Recreationally, I've heard it can be good fun. But relationships, I think it could be tricky. I mean, say for instance, you've got two girlfriends or 2 wives or you got twice the anniversaries, you get twice the amount of presents, didn't you? You've got to decide what to watch and you got between 3 of you deciding what to watch and what to eat. I mean, it's a nightmare in my house as it is. So
yeah, you'll need
it's interesting what Dan said is
multiple screens,
because it is always a guy with 2 women.
Yeah,
and that's the thing that is. Are we really talking about the increase in genuine throuples? You would think there would be more, or is it blokes basically being greedy and getting away with it.
I think it's to do with this Pareto distribution of the dating marketplace. So a few men at the top, so to speak, like David Hay can do it, and the majority of men can't do this. And so they're just accumulating all the women, and it kind of like the 1% accumulates all the wealth. That's what I think is going on.
So you think he's stolen your girlfriend?
Essentially, yeah, essentially.
OK, the Metro next. And Dan, have I got this right that these people are wearing masks to hide that they're dogs?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've been looking forward to these stories now. This is my section. I can feel myself coming. I haven't really said much, but this is a great one. This is about...
He's on fire.
I'm ready to go. This is puppy... Mate, I'm chomping at the bit. Puppy play has helped me feel more loved than ever before. I now have a fiancé. At the moment, my alpha, Butch, suggested both him and my partner, Goody, give me a bath, was really relaxing. This is when people pretend they're dogs, right? And it's supposed to help their relationships.
Oh, we've got a picture of them there.
Yeah, it's like a kinky... It's like a kinky thing.
That's Dan on the left.
Yeah, I'm surprised that this really helps their relationships, because my dog hates having a bath. Do you know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, and this they're describing, you know, him getting in a bath, then bathing him. I think it's just weird. It's another weird thing, isn't it? But look, if you want to dress up and dress as a dog and walk around the country, walk around the world doing it,
or countryside, go for walks.
I'm sure you can anywhere in the world, apart from China, maybe in a food market.
Yeah, North Korea as well.
Yeah, North Korea, you'd end up in a suit, mate.
Because of the no, I meant because of the censorship. Carry on, John.
Well, no, just saying. Here we go again. Another story about people who are now part of the LGBTQIA+ community. And when you go to pride marches nowadays, which have sort of become these family-friendly events, you'll see these people in their masks. No, but you see, and you see photos of them on leashes and being whatever, wearing these dog masks and whatnot. The reality is, it's a kink, right?
Well, yeah, it says here,
and there's nothing wrong with that. But to make it now like it's... No, there's nothing wrong with that. Look, people do whatever they want, but the fact that it's become public and that people aren't...
Yes. Well, I'll answer both those points, if you want.
Please do.
Well, yes, so it says here, some treat it as a sexual kink, while others care more for the role-play aspect, while some treat it as a mental illness. But the thing is, you're right that it's sort of advocated by the state. We saw some of these, dog people with the police in that sort of famous picture. And this is what's happened in our sort of lost, godless society. It's a Rousseauian paradox, Josh, of everything is permitted under the state. So we have this kind of weird liberalism where everything is permitted, but it's kind of advocated by the state and controlled with it. So it's a very strange world. And I find it particularly disturbing, this, because dogs are so innocent and sweet, and then involving them in this, I personally find it creepy. I feel bad for the guy because he says he's sort of disabled and there were certain limits to him being in a relationship. So I sympathise, of course, but I also just find this creepy and part of the decline of the West.
I should mention, by the way, that it's a woman.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, they had a mask on, so I couldn't tell.
It was a dog, no?
It's a female dog.
It's good acting.
Once said a word.
Nice to see the Times in this section, Nick, with a story that should cause you alarm.
Yeah. Fire alarm fetishes. This is where I realised Josh has picked the story tonight. They're all the same, weird...
I'm just trying to make a little point with what's going on in our society.
Fire alarm fetishes thought to be behind German hotel blazes. So this is a guy who was aroused by blaring sirens and mass panic. Sounds like marriage material there, ladies. It says, according to local reports, detective investigating a theory that a man, aged 24, and named only the Joker... No, he's named Nick S. I mean, it sounds like the sort of thing the Joker would do.
Nick Pureblood S. Dixon.
Derives sexual gratification from the sound of fire alarms and people rushing out of their rooms. Takes all sorts, doesn't it? And he basically allegedly did a slew of these, because there was one in the Penta Hotel, then the Book Hotel, then the Motel One, then the I can't pronounce that, another hotel. And they're saying now it must be because of this very strange thing, pyrophilia, which is defined as being sexually aroused by fire or its aftermath. And by the way, the aftermath people are the total losers of the pyrophilia. Well, they're like the losers.
So now it's got to be LGBTQIA
dog
plus P, puppy, double P plus thing. Right. I mean, what do you think? I mean, he's certainly not very bright giving his name every time.
I think it's weird. To me, it screams like just someone that, setting the alarm. You want to get caught. It's kind of a little bit kinky. It reminds me of back in the day when, you're having a bit of alone time and you shout to your mum, "Mum, come in here," and then you try and quickly before... You ever do that? Just me on that one. But, yeah, I think it's weird.
It's definitely weird. I love that the aftermath thing as well. I mean, how niche is the aftermath part? You know, it's not enough that you like setting fire. It's like some people just like the aftermath.
Yeah, a bit of ash to get you going.
Exactly. Funny.
Saturday's Mail next, our last story. And Dan, maybe one day we can move in together.
Wow, I hope so. I hope so. We could have many intellectual conversations like this one. It's been great.
Who's leading our country today?
Yeah, woo! No, this has been great fun, guys. Listen, this story is just a non-story. It's just weird, isn't it? It's just that I moved in with my platonic soulmate after we both got divorced. Best friends who lived together after both getting divorced claimed you don't need a man to be happy. Maris Baker and Patty describe themselves as platonic soulmates. So they're just making up names now. It's like naming asteroids, isn't it? Hoping to get famous from it, like, you know, calling your sister a non-sexual female blood friend or your Uber driver a non-amorous automobile jockey or something. It's just pointless. There's no point to it.
Well, Nick, I mean, who does the kin-keeping in this household?
It's complex, isn't it? I know. And it's quite sad because it happened after a divorce. It's basically some women getting together after a divorce as sort of very, very close friends. If there's another kind of weird breakdown of relationship, they can't manage to have a relationship, so they're together and everyone else is just with David Hay. And,
is that society?
That's society.
Is that where it,
Yeah,
it's also, this has taken place in America, and I love the way that they talk during the interview where it's like, no one's ever shared a flat with anybody else before or liked their flatmate. It's so ridiculous.
It's just a weird name, platonic soulmate. Do you know what I mean? I think I'd rather dress up as a dog than live with one of my pals and call myself a platonic soulmate. That's
also, they're divorced and they're together. You know, how much do you really hate men at that moment?
More after this show, probably.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Well, unfortunately, that is all we have time for, but a big thank you to my guests. Dan, you enjoyed yourself?
I feel like I've learnt a lot, especially about current affairs and politics and stuff, and I'm happy to be part of the team.
And Nick Dixon, I don't care what your response is.
Yeah, got time.
Headlines going to be back tomorrow at 11 and is repeated at 1 a.m, 5 a.m. And if you're still up watching, stay tuned for The Breakfast Show. Woo-hoo. Have a great weekend.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I'd love to read out all of your comments or